So, hello everyone. Today we are going to start a new series based on critical reasoning. Why critical reasoning? Because our exams. Which exams? Exams based on high order thinking skills. They test these kind of questions a lot. So, first of all, as a graduate, you should know that what critical reasoning is, and your exam also expects from you that you are aware how to think logically. So let's see what critical reasoning requires. So first of all, critical reasoning is not a critical reasoning is not a reading comprehension test. Basically, it is a test of your skills that how well you make the decisions in a particular problem which is given to you. So many students lack sufficient understanding of what critical reasoning is in reality, and they don't understand the skills required for tackling these kind of questions. So first of all, we should be aware that what are the prominent skills which we need to solve these questions, because we know by solving a lot of questions it won't help me a much, but if you are aware how to tackle properly these questions, it will really benefit you. And in these series we will do that in very proper and structured manner. We will do all kind of questions based on assumptions, weaken the argument, strengthening the argument, resolve the paradox, inference based, all kind of questions. So such students practice by solving questions after questions, and it don't take them anywhere. So what happens with little improvement in their skills, understanding or accuracy? It means they are not properly aware that what should they do. So basically, they should keep in mind, first of all, what critical reasoning is and what the exam expects from the candidate. So let's be clear about what critical reasoning questions test. Let's check. Critical reasoning questions are designed to test our skills in making, analyzing, and evaluating arguments in class. It means that it wants to check how do you analyze the situation, how do you evaluate the arguments, do you make the plans in proper structured format, and do you implement them properly? So basically it wants to check your decision making ability. Is it? So there's a key point which we should know. What is it? Critical reasoning questions are designed to test our skills in making, analyzing, and our skills in making, analyzing, and evaluating the arguments and plan, and which holistically creates your decision making skill. So, to correctly answer these questions requires using what the makers of which the exam called high order thinking skills, because these questions require, what does high order thinking skills mean? It means that it it is demanding. The question is quite demanding. It requires you to think out of the box, which we usually call out of the box thinking means high order thinking skills. You need to think beyond the particular given situation, but you cannot go beyond the text. You need to think the logical implications of the information. So we will talk about them in a proper detailed manner. So first of all, what critical reasoning is not? Let's see. Because it is very important what you are going to study, you should know what you have to study and what you do not have. So similarly, if you are aware that what critical reasoning is, you should also be aware that what critical reasoning is not. So let's see. First and very important point, critical reasoning is not a point or is not a word matching game. You cannot solve the question just by matching the word from the paragraph and the answer choices. And you feel that, okay, these are the option choices which have the above given information and that appeals your emotion. And then you try to select those answer choices. Trust me, it won't help you take anywhere, really. So you should know that critical reasoning is not a word matching game at all. In other words, we won't score high in critical reasoning by choosing answer choices that merely includes words that appear in the passage. Okay, because We know this is not at all a word matching. You don't have to match the words and try to make the permutations combination. No, you need to understand the flow of thought, how author have conveyed the information, and what could be the possible consequences of the given particular scenario. Just you need to keep all those informations in mind. Again, be aware it is not a word matching. So, critical reasoning is not really a test of how well we have memorized the information. It means it is not the game of word matching as well as how good you memorize the information. They don't want to test your memorization skills. No, not at all. They want to test that how really good and in better way you understand the situation. Then, after understanding, they want you to evaluate the information. You have evaluated. Now, it's good for them. It's good for you. Now, make a plan and accordingly apply. This is what they require. So, is it clear to us that it is not a word matching game? And next, it is not the test of memorizing the information. So, such as a list of critical reasoning question types. Okay. First of all, it helps us to be familiar with the questions. Familiarity makes things easy for us, but familiarity does not mean in these kind of questions that if you are familiar with the information, then we should memorize it. No, it won't help you a lot. So familiarity with things like question type can help us. Like we know these are kind of strengthen question, weaken question. It will help you, but to a limited extent because we already have talked about the idea they are high order thinking skill based questions. So questions type can help, but memorizing the concepts are just basic. These are basic that we can use in the process of answering the questions. So you can use it to a limited extent, but beyond a limit, they won't be a lot useful to you. They won't get us all the way to the correct answers because they are the basic tools, and these questions are based on higher order thinking. So it requires you to understand the information in proper and structured manner. Okay. Now, critical reasoning is not the test of how well we use simple strategy. It should be kept in mind that it is not the test how well you use the simple strategy to find correct answer. Simple strategies means simple strategies means I have read the information. This is what I particularly think, and this should be my plan. And accordingly, I have reached to the. First of all the parameters should be kept in mind. Then, whatever information I have thought, does it really fit in the given scenario or that work in the real world? Because sometimes you will see that things which happen in real world does not necessarily mean it also happens in the given particular scenario. So you should be aware whatever strategies you are creating, they should be up to the mark for the current situation. They might work in the real world scenario, but it is not mandatory. Things that work in real world scenario will also help me to reach to my correct answer because my agenda is to understand the information and move to the correct answer. So simple strategies might help us to get the answer to the easier question. And it is what happens if information is easy, we can easily calculate, means we can easily evaluate. But as the questions become a bit challenging, which are high order thinking questions, your strategies, your these basic tools won't help you alone. Then you have to evaluate the information, accordingly adjust, do all kind of permutations, combinations given in the particular scenario, and then you have to proceed. And sometimes it is possible you have to leave because you got confused in the option choice. So it's all right. It happens with everyone. So these were the points, first of all, which we discussed that what critical reasoning was and what critical reasoning was not. But now let's see critical reasoning, what it really tests, what they really wants to test from a particular candidate. So vision. Now vision is very important. How broad your vision is. It means that do you see the information to a limited scenario or you have the abilities to connect the dots and look at the given scenario with the broader aspect. Your aspect really matters. So vision is very important when you are looking at these kind of questions. The broader your vision is, the more you are open to the information, the more peacefully you can read the given data and accordingly solve the question. Because these questions requires your patience. You cannot solve them in really very hurry. So next is attention to details. Now, attention to detail is also an important part. You need to focus on the smaller areas also, which the author have mentioned. Sometimes we miss the information, and missing the information might really becomes challenging for me, because if you have missed the information and now you might have to pay the price. So vision is important. Attention to the minor details, it is also important. For that, you must read the given information not at very fast pace, at a medium pace. Read it openly and be open to the information. All right. So vision is important. Attention to details are also very important. Skill in the use of logic. Now, you can ask me that how do I develop this skill in logic? The point is, it comes with the time. The better content you consume, the good kind of questions you solve, you automatically become prominent in logic. Your logic over the period with the time automatically improves and emerges, okay, with really different manner. So, skill in the use of logic, it comes with the practice over the time. Practice does not mean solving a lot of questions. Practice means you have solved limited questions, but you know really the core, really the hook of what the question was. Next, avoiding falling into the mental traps and the cognitive biases which we have created for ourselves. We live in an imaginary world which we ourselves have developed, and the options you will see in those critical reasoning questions will really appeal to your emotions. You will feel that yes, this is what happens, but think about it. Does it really happen in the real world? And that real world situation matches with the given situation. You need to focus on that idea. So your cognitive biases and the mental traps, you have to overcome that, and it is the most challenging part in these kind of questions. Most of the students get confused because they believe that in reality it happens, but no. Does it happen in the given scenario? I cannot go beyond the given particular given information to. It is very important for me. So we should be aware of vision. We should know. We should basically keep attention to the details. We should properly use the skill of the logic which emerges over the time, and we should avoid the mental trap and your cognitive. Next, emphasizing carefully clear thinking and minimizing shallow thinking. Shallow thinking means you do not think beyond one aspect. It means that you have not broadened your vision. You think only to the limited extent. So we need to focus that if this situation has happened, what could be the logical implication? If A happened, could it cause B? Or if A had happened, B also occurred at the same time. But the point is, does A really impacted B, or they are correlated to each other, that coincidentally they happened at the same time? I need to look at the logical implications, and for that I need a broader vision, and my shallow thinking won't take me anywhere. It means that I need to improve, and for improvement the point is simple. Means consume good content and try to solve good kind of questions. Next is your good judgment. Again, it improves over the time. Your judgment, it just improves. You have seen a lot of people who earlier do not make the good, means who earlier used to not make good judgments, but over the period when they solve these kind of questions, when they logically apply means when they use the logic in the proper and structured manner, not in the fallacious manner, they will automatically start to make their judgment good. So again, it improves over the time. Execution of best practices, and it is really very important. In the proper, if you execute your plan in the proper manner, automatically you will get the results also good. So the point is, the holistic combinations of all these approaches is really what critical reasoning. You have to be open to the information. You cannot be so much closed and limited. You are so much, if you are so much trapped in your mental biases and your mental traps and cognitive biases, you will then, means it will really become challenging for you to tackle these kind of questions. Okay, so arriving at the critical correct answer to the critical reasoning questions depends on three factors. What are those factors? First is, what do you know? What do you know is the idea from two idea, means to from two aspects. What do you know from the information provided to you, and what do you know before reading the information? Because before reading the information, what in reality you know does not mean it will work. What do you know after reading the information? So you have to be really aware. What do you know? Does that what do you know earlier one applies to this particular condition? It has to be really, really balanced. Means you cannot give an edge to the earlier idea and compare it with the latest one. No, it doesn't work. What do you see? It is also very important. What do you see and how do you see? It depends on your vision. And again, as I have told, it improves over the time. Next, and what do you do? It is the execution. So, what do you know from the earlier part and how do you apply it? Then, what do you see? This is the aspect of your vision and how do you execute the plan. It also becomes, means how do you execute your plan? It also improves over the time, because when your vision broadens, your judgment becomes better, your execution abilities also become good. So, as we are talking about critical reasoning, we have seen what are the skills they really want to test, because these questions are high order thinking skill based, and they want you to do all kind of permutations combinations to reach to the correct answers. Okay, and for that I have to first open to the information. You have to be open to the information and the questions. All right, it is the question. I will read it. I will carefully read it with the patience. If I understand the information, I will attempt it. If I don't, I will leave it. It's simple. Now, in order to effectively answer critical reasoning questions, we need to know the parts of the information provided to me. What kind of parts? Like critical reasoning, we must understand how arguments are commonly structured. So, structuring of arguments. How arguments are commonly structured. Structure means that you will be given an information in the passage. Now, every information is not same. Some of the information might be a fact. Some of the information might be an assumption. Some of the information might be conclusion. And then we have to look at how many participants are there in the given information. Now, if you are properly aware which information is fact, conclusion, or assumption, you can better tackle the question, because if you are aware of the participants of the structure, then the information given to you, you will better understand this information. So these arguments, the argument structure consists of some parts. It is the conclusion, the evidence, the assumption, and the background information. Background information is the part which gives you the pace, means detailed, means information. For example, in 1980 this war happened. So this 1980 this war happened, this was the background information which author have mentioned, so you can better understand what is going to happen next in the passage. All right, so we will see each and every part individually. Let's see. First, conclusion. Now, conclusion is the core of passage. It is really important to understand what author's conclusion is. Conclusion means the author's vision. What information authors wants to transfer from him to you. This is the conclusion. Because you have to now, what will be happen? You will be given a passage or the paragraph. You have to read it, then you have to filter the information, and then you have to identify the, because that is the core message which author have just means which the author really wants to transfer by sharing the information he have mentioned. So the conclusion of the argument is the sentence that states the argument's point of view. So it states the argument's point of view. And point of view means what author wants to share. What is the vision of author? What particular information author wants to transfer? It is the point of view. It is his opinion. In other words, a conclusion is the main point. It is the main point of the information in the passage. Okay, so main point of all the information in the passage is leading us. It means what really author wants to share. He will present some facts, he will have a background information, and combining all those information, he will conclude something and make his own judgment and opinion that I believe with on from all these facts and ideas, this is going to happen. And that was the author's conclusion. So we should be really aware of those ideas. Next, what we must know. What we must know about conclusion? Conclusion of the argument in the sentence that states the argument's point of view, which is the central idea. An author's conclusion is always a statement of opinion because what he believes he is going to share with you. And think about it, whatever your opinion is, you yourself will believe that my opinion is correct. In reality, it might and it might not happen, but whenever you are sharing your opinion, you yourself will believe, yes, whatever I have shared, it is correct. Similarly, the author, whatever he wants to convey, he believes that his conclusion is, his opinion is right. So, an author's conclusion is always a statement of opinion because he trusts the idea, whatever he have shared is to the point. Okay. In other words, whenever author sets forth a conclusion, she presenting what she believes to be true. Whatever author is sharing, whatever the conclusion, whatever the opinion author have shared, he believes that it has to be true because he won't counter himself. Okay. Next. So conclusion comes in the forms of ideas, viewpoints, opinions, recommendations, suggestions, plan of actions. Okay. These are different kind of forms in which author might share the conclusion. We will talk about them in proper manner when we will be doing a detailed analysis of conclusion. Okay. Now, let's move to our next part, which is consider the following. Okay, we have some keywords also. What are the keywords? Keywords which really tells me how can I identify the conclusion. Let's look at them. First of all, I have an example. Let's try to understand what conclusion is with the help of this example. This is the information given to me. Critical reasoning is like a game. All right, it is like a game. Games are fun. This is one more information. And author have concluded on the basis of these two ideas that critical reasoning must be. So when author say it must be fun, he believes himself that when I am saying it must be fun, in reality it must be fun for himself. So you can see on the basis of two facts. This is fact number one. Critical reasoning is like a game. This is a fact which author have shared. There is one more fact here mentioned. Games are considered to be fun. And on the basis of these two facts, author have concluded that critical reasoning must be fun. So these are two facts, fact number one and fact number two. And this is the conclusion. Because author believes if he is saying it must have happened, he believes that the games must be fun. He believes himself that in reality, all right, games might be fun. It must be fun. For you, it might not be fun, but according to the author, games are fun. So, if the conclusion of the above argument is critical reasoning, okay, conclusion is critical reasoning must be. This is the conclusion with author have mentioned. Okay, it's the main point of the argument which author have mentioned because he believed that it must be fun. He have mentioned the part of argument that other parts lead up to. Other parts, which are those parts? These are those facts. First fact that critical reasoning is like a game, and second fact, games are. He believes that these two facts will lead to the conclusion. Okay, so author often use some particular words to define the conclusion, to denote the conclusion. Okay, to indicate the conclusion. So basically, author often use specific keywords to indicate to the reader that okay, now I am going to present a conclusion in front of you. Keep aware yourself. So what are those words? Here is the common list. Like you can see, therefore, we see the word therefore often. That whenever you say therefore, this is going to happen. Because how do you say this is going to happen? Because you have given the facts earlier. And now you are concluding because those were the information, those are the facts. On the basis of that facts, I conclude, I give my opinion, I share my opinion. According to me, it must be true that this might happen. Or those facts might lead me to that information, the new information, which is the author's opinion. So, therefore, in conclusion, so clearly, hence, this show, it can be concluded, and so on. These are the sum of the means these words are these are some of the words which indicates me to that the conclusion is going to come. All right, we will do a detailed analysis of the conclusion type questions when we will be doing conclusion independent. Okay, next. Now the another part of the paragraph, which is the premise or the evidence, or you can also say the facts. What are the evidence or the premise? Evidence or premise are the facts. What kind of facts? The facts which support the conclusion. So, when I say this is an evidence, this is a fact, this is a premise, those author believes must had happened because you cannot counter a fact. You can counter someone opinions, but you cannot counter the fact. If I say last year means from the survey, detailed survey, economic survey, we have seen that the GDP from the last year to compare to this year have grown by 0.5%. Now you cannot say that no, it might not have grown by 0.5%. It might be 1% or 2. No, that was means the information which I am sharing is based on the economic survey, which have done a detailed analysis. So it is a fact, and I have to believe this fact might be true. So evidence or premise are the facts. What do? They support the conclusion, and they are used to build the argument. Now this is very important. These facts support the conclusion, and they are the building blocks of making an argument. These facts typically provide reason for believing or justification for the conclusion because they believe, author believes that they are true. So these are the building blocks for your opinion. So that someone reads your opinion, he believes that whatever you have concluded on the basis of this fact, it must be true because facts might support the conclusion. And facts are the supporting means facts always support the conclusion. Okay. So let's consider our example again. As we have talked about it, critical reasoning is like a game and games are fun. So author have concluded that critical reasoning must be fun. How did he reach that to the idea? To the final idea that critical reasoning must be fun? Because earlier he has shared two more parts. What are those parts? Means what are those parts and evidences? Those are evidence provided by the author of critical reasoning questions comes. Okay, here we have written the information. This one, the games one, and the games are these two are facts. And on the basis of these facts, I have concluded this idea as we have talked. Now, evidence provided by the author of critical reasoning questions comes in many forms. You will see the facts many forms. It could be a form, means this evidence could be some statistics or number, or the author could say the result of this scientific inquiry, or you can say a lot of things. But these will be well researched topics. The data they are sharing, they believe the data to be true for that particular given. So, in simple words, if we talk about the facts, facts are the supporting statements which help the conclusion to build, because the conclusion is totally based on those facts, and there is a relation between facts and conclusion, that they are correlated to each other. Okay, so one thing which we must know, what is that? Evidence premise are the facts that support the conclusion, because the facts will support the conclusion. They are the building blocks of it, and they are used to build the argument. They are what they are used to? They are used to build the argument. So we must be aware of the idea that this is the information in the paragraph. Now, this much part is a fact, and this much part is a conclusion. Because if you can identify, then you can easily target whatever you wanted to target. So that categorization really helps us a lot. We will learn how do we do it next. Now, remember that a statement of a fact is never an opinion, because opinions might change, but fact does not change. Facts remain constant. They are well researched and detailed, done on detailed surveys. So opinion may vary to individual, but facts are constant. Means facts works same for each and every individual. They do not change. So we have some following facts in front of us. Let's read them. So the study found that people who eat at least 5 servings of fruit each day, okay, 5 serving of fruits each day, significantly lower the rates of tooth decay. First of all, does it is it an opinion? No, because what have indicated? There has been a study. Now, this is not an individual's opinion. There has been a study, and that study says that people who eat people who eat at least 5 servings of fruit each day. And what happens with it? It happens that these people have significantly lower rates of tooth decay. Okay, lower rates of tooth decay from whom? When I compare from the persons who do not eat these 5 servings. Now you cannot say this does not happen. This could be at least 3 servings or 4 servings. No, it doesn't work that way, because it is a fact, and these facts are based on the study. We have done a study, and the study tells that the people who eat at least 5 servings of fruit, they will have what? They will have significantly lower rate of tooth decay. Okay, from whom? They will have the lower rate of tooth decay from the people compared to who do not eat these at least 5 servings of fruit. So this is a comparison which is based on a study, not an individual's opinion. This has to be a, because it is not an opinion or judgment. It is a well-researched study, and on the basis of study we have shared the fact. Similarly, another example, the town of West Hill. Okay, what does it tell me? The town of West Hill recently began adding chlorine to the public supply. Now, when you say this town started adding chlorine to the public water supply, you cannot say no, the town has not done that. No, this is a fact. Town has done that, and because of it, there will be some consequences. We don't know what it will be, but this is a fact. We have to believe this idea that okay, if information is saying that, it must be true. You cannot make your own opinion and judgment and try to contradict it. You cannot. Starting tomorrow, park rangers will begin flying over the park aerial drones equipped with thermal cameras able to detect campfire. Now, I say that from tomorrow, what will happen? That these park rangers, we have some park rangers, and they will fly some drones. Okay. Now you can't say that no, 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 the drones won't, means the rangers won't fly those drones from tomorrow. They might be day after tomorrow, or they might have already started. No, you cannot counter these ideas. This is just a fact for you so that author can move to the conclusion. So I have to believe this idea to be true. Mars company saw a 300% increase in the customers complaint last month. Now they have given you a fact in the numeral form that the company has seen there is a 3% rise in what, in the customer complaint last month. Again, if information is shared that there is a 3% increase, you cannot counter and say no, 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 it might be 100% or it might not be 300%, it might be 400. You cannot. This is a fact and I will believe it must be. Okay, none of the students in the class have taken course in the logic. Now, if I say no one have taken in the course in the logic, you have to believe this idea to be true. Because from this point of view, author will take you to his opinion. So I have to believe this idea also. Alright? So these are some of the examples of the facts. We have talked about conclusion. Conclusions are the opinions of the author. And we will have some facts which author consider to be true. And those facts are the building blocks which will take us to the author's judgment, conclusions, opinions. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now, this is really important. Assumptions. Assumptions are one of the crucial part of the critical reasoning. So we must be aware that what assumptions mean. We must know it. Let's see. A vital part of any argument is its assumption. What is it? It is a vital part. It is an important or crucial part of argument structure. How? We will talk about that idea. First, an assumption is an unstated piece of information. What is it? Unstated piece of information. What do I mean by unstated piece of information? It means that in the paragraph, author won't write the assumption directly because it is unstated piece of information. And if something is unstated, how can you write it directly? You cannot. So, assumption is an unstated piece of information that author must, means it is an unstated piece of information that must be true. It has to be true. If the logic of argument is to work, it means there is a correlation between assumption and logic of the argument, because if assumption do not work, the logic of argument will also don't work. And if logic don't work, your conclusion, the author's conclusion might also become somewhat faulty. We will see. In other words, an argument assumption are found to be, if an argument assumption is found to be incorrect, what will happen? Look, the argument will fall apart. How will argument fall apart? Because we know, we have seen that it is an unstated piece of information. And what does that happen? That it must be true. It must be true for the logic of argument to work. It means assumption and logic of argument are correlated to each other. And if assumption falls apart, the argument structure will also fall apart because it does not follow that logic. Somehow assumptions and conclusions are related to each other. Assumption has to support conclusion because that's the author's opinion. And if that does not follow that way, your argument structure will fall apart. So we will see that, you can see that the assumption is an unstated piece of information which we have talked about. And that must be true. The logic of argument is true. And it has to be that way. Now, it can be helpful to think of an argument as a math problem. How can I think of it as a math problem? Think about it. What will we have in the argument structure? We will have, first of all, the background information to give us the pace, to give us the speed that what author is going to share. Then we will have evidence. These are the facts. And remember, we have stored, means we have talked that facts are always considered to be true. Always considered to be true. Then we will have assumption, and then we will finally reach to the conclusion. So you can write the argument structure also in the form of mathematical equation. Okay. So what do we have in argument structure? We will have the background information. We will have the facts, which we call as evidence or the premises. Then we will have an assumption, which is unstated. It will not be mentioned in the argument. And finally, from combining all these, author will share his own opinion and it will take you to the conclusion. This is what we have in argument structure. All right. In other words, think of an assumption as an unstated glue. This is also important. Assumption is an unstated glue. Now, it is an glue. If it is an unstated glue, it has to means if it is glue, it will what it will do. It will try to stick to things. So the missing information that connects the evidence to the conclusion. So we can say that when I have your evidence, which we call as facts, and when I have conclusion, these two are being attached by assumptions. Assumption will attach both the evidence and conclusion. And think about it. Whenever I negate the assumption, whenever I negate the assumption, if your assumptions become wrong, your conclusion will also become wrong because assumption has to support conclusion. So indirectly, as I say, if my assumption is right, my conclusion is also right. So they both are correlated to each other and they both have an impact. They are correlated, positively correlated. If one falls up, if one is negated, other also becomes wrong. And if one is true, other also automatically becomes true. So conclusion and assumption, they are correlated to each other. And assumption works in as an unstated glue for evidence and conclusion. All right, let's move ahead. Now we have a question based on assumptions. The idea which we are talking, the facts, assumptions, and conclusions. Let's look at to the question. Okay. Now let's read it. First of all, we will identify among the given information what is in fact, what is in conclusion. This is our central target. Always try to find first what is the conclusion. Okay. The town of Seaford is projected to have a sizable budget deficit. Okay, in the coming year, they will have a sizable budget deficit in the coming year. Okay. Then, meanwhile, over 20,000 cars across the North Bay Bridge into the seaford every day. So we have 20,000 cars which cross this North Bay Bridge, okay, into the seaford every day. This is also one information. Next, clearly. Now author is mentioning clearly. It means he wants to share his opinion now that by charging a toll to cross the North Bay Bridge in the town of Seaford can generate enough revenue to cover its budget deficit. So what has happened? You have a problem. And to solve that problem, author have proposed a plan that if we will introduce this plan, my problem will be solved. What is the plan? Means what is the problem? Problem is we have a budget deficit, sizable budget deficit in the city. And this is a fact. Now you cannot counter that budget deficit might not be there. This is a fact. I mean, it has to be true. Now, for solving this problem, that the problem of budget deficit, author propose a plan. What is the plan? That what we should do? We can do one thing. You can charge the toll to whom? The people who cross the bridge. The ones who cross the bridge. Okay. And who are who means how many number of cars are crossing the bridge? We know that over 20,000 cars cross the bridge every day. It is mentioned to me and it is also fact. So I have a problem. What is the problem? Problem of sizable budget deficit. And to solve that problem, that how can I cover this gap of sizable budget deficit, author proposes a plan that if you introduce the idea of toll and implement it on the people who are crossing the bridge, you will automatically generate enough revenue to compensate that budget. All right. So we have a plan. It means that the problem is like that. You have a problem. You have a problem. Author have introduced a plan to achieve a fixed goal. I can write this simple information like this. What is the problem? Problem is that we have to cover the budget deficit. So there is a gap of, means we have sizable budget deficit. I can write a sizable budget deficit. This is a problem. How will I solve the problem? Author have given you the idea that to solve the problem of sizable budget deficit, what you should do? You start charging the toll. Charge the toll. Author has told you. And what will happen? You will finally cover your what? Budget deficit. It means that you will bridge the gap. So basically, the question is like this. You have a problem, you have proposed a plan, and you believe that if you are proposing this plan, from this plan, things might work out for you to achieve your goal. Now, author is saying things might work from this plan. You cannot say there is an alternative plan which also solves the problem. No. Author is assuming this idea that his plan might work. Okay. Now let's look at the option choices. Which of the following does the author assumes in arriving at the conclusion? What is the author's assumption? Let's see. First option. Tax rates set by the town of seafood could be increased substantially. Alright. Now you wants to solve the problem by increasing the tax rate, but think about it. Author is saying my plan is to charge the toll, and this plan might solve the problem. You are saying I will solve the problem by increasing the tax rate, and this is not the assumption. To solve the problem, you are doing one thing, you are charging the tolls. You are charging the tolls from the people who are coming to the city of the seafood. Now, from them means to for that plan to work, you cannot assume the idea that I will what I will do. I will increase the tax rate. This is an absurd idea. Early means you are proposing a different idea to solve the problem. It doesn't work that way. If the town of seafood does not cover its budget deficit, all right, it will be forced to clear the bankruptcy in the coming year. Okay, you are saying if the plan doesn't work, what will happen in the future? But assumption is the idea in means idea between your means your facts and your conclusion. I need not to tell that what might happen in the future. I need to look for the idea that I will be able to cover its budget deficit and my plan might work. What authors is believing, I need to look for that idea. Okay, this is telling me the future in future what is going to happen. I need not to look for the future reference. Next, people will continue to use the North Bay Bridge to get to the seafood even if they must pay a toll to do so. Now think about it. If they must pay a now think logically, you are proposing a plan on the idea that every day 20,000 cars cross the bridge. Now, if I will charge some toll from every car, I will cover the gap. Now, if author assume this idea that people will continue, think about it, if it is written like this, people will not continue to use. If people will not continue to use this bridge, can my plan work? If people will not come from the bridge, from whom will I charge the toll? It means that for the charging of toll, people have to come on the bridge. It means that people should not take an alternative route. They must travel on the bridge. So author is believing the idea that my plan will work, and for my plan to work, people will still use the bridge. So people will continue to use the bridge in the North Bay Bridge to get seafood, even if they must pay a toll, and they will do so. Yes, so author believes this idea to be true because if they do not use the bridge, can author plans work? No, not at all. It means that for his plan to work, author means for author's plan to work, people have to use the bridge. Is it so? This is the right idea. This might be the proper assumptions. Let's read the other choices, then I will compare. But this much I can say, these two are irrelevant. It tells me an alternative way. What does this option choice tell me? This option choice tells me an alternative way to solve the problem. And this choice, option number B, talks about the future. None of them talks about how authors plan might work. Okay. Option number D. The town of Seaford has spent money on wasteful projects. Now think about it. It is possible the town of Seaford has spent money on, means town has spent money on wasteful projects. But still, author's plan can work. It is not the mandatory idea that for his plan to work, town should not have spent money. They might have spent the money, and because of that, there is a sizable budget deficit. It might be true, it might not be true. But then also, author's plan could work. So this idea do not carry the thought. This option choice, sorry, not this one. Option number D. This option number D. Do not carry the thought which author wants to look at. It also doesn't work. Next, the town of Seaford, sorry, the number of cars that cross the North Bay Bridge even means every day will not increase in the near future. Think about it. If the number of cars increased in the near future, what will happen? The plan will still work. So this is not a mandatory assumption. So for that plan to work, number of cars, you are assuming the idea that the number of cars will not increase in the future. Think about it. If in place of this not, author have said that number of cars in the North Bridge every day will increase in the near future. Okay, they have increased. Then also plan can work. So negating this option choice does not contradict the author's conclusion. Negate after negation also your plan is working. It means that no, it is not the proper idea. It is talking about another thing, a different set of idea. That what will happen if number of cars do not increase? Then also plan will work. But the point is, author is assuming how his plan will work. If number of people who are traveling on that bridge, those 20,000 cars, they do not cross the bridge, can author's plan work? Think about think yourself. No, not at all. It means that it is the mandatory assumption. He's believing that when if I'm proposing this plan, people will still use the bridge. They are ready to pay the toll because it is said that it is said that people will continue to use the North Bay Bridge to get to the seaport, even if they must pay to the toll. Even if must pay to the toll to do so, means that author believes the idea that things are going to work out. So it means that correct choice will be option number C. It is the mandatory idea. On the other hand, other option choices are talking something else. Option number A gives me an alternative way to solve the problem, but no, I am not looking for it. Option number B talks about what can happen in the future. Option number D, it talks about the town has spent money on wasteful projects. All right, they have spent, but it does not caters the author thought. Last option, the number of cars that cross the North Bay Bridge every day will not increase. Think about it, it might also increase. And after increasing the number of cars, then also author's plan might work. So it does not mean that this is the mandatory idea. It means that we have only one choice left. So this was one of the question. How do they ask? Means this was one question that how examiners want you to know that how to find the author's assumption or how to use the author's assumption. Okay. First, what we did, we have tried to figure out how the situation is given to me. So we looked at it that first of all we have a problem, then we proposed a plan, and to solve that problem we have a plan, and then I will implementation of plan will take me to my goal. I have already categorized. I have figured out the conclusion also because author mentioned clearly he believes that things are going to work if he use this idea. So he believes clearly that charging the toll will solve the problem. This was the conclusion, and we used And we had two facts. One was there is a gap of sizable budget deficit, and another was that 20,000 cars cross the bridge each and every day. All right. So this was one of the questions of assumptions. When we will start the assumptions, we will solve more these kind of questions. Okay. Next. Now we have one more information. What is it? To do well in critical reasoning, we must see the logical implication. What do I mean by logical implication? This is very important. At first glance, you might seem that it is normal, but if you don't focus on it, it sometimes might take you might sometimes take the wrong path. So when I say logical implication of the statement in critical reasoning, passage and answer choices. Okay. So we must see the logical implications. We must see the logical implications. Okay. How? What are the logical implications? Let's see. A logical implication is simply the logical consequence of SAT. That if you are doing this, what could be the further consequences of? For example, if an means if there is an hotel means if there is a restaurant and that restaurant improves its services, what might be the consequences of it? You can say that if you are improving the services, more customers might want to come into the restaurant. It could be the logical implication. Or you must say that if there were earlier means more complaints in the restaurant, the number of complaints will automatically decrease. It is could be one more implication. These are logical implications. If you do one thing, what might happen in future? What could be the consequence of it? Those are called the logical implications. So a logical implication is simply the logical consequence of a set of facts or conditions. We could also say that logical implication is what we expect to result from the set of facts or conditions, all else equal. Means what you believe think might happen when all the different factors are intact. They are not changed. We will talk about it also. Let's take some example to better understand this idea. First, if the service at a restaurant improves, okay, then the smaller percentage of patrons will complain to the manager, as we have talked about. Now you have two factors here. One is the service. What happens if your service improves? We will have a consequence of it. What consequence? That then the smaller percentage of patrons will complain to the managers. It means that service improvement results in decrement of number of complaints. It means that complaint number of complaints decreases. Service improves, number of complaints automatically decrease. These are called the logical implications. The service improves of the restaurant, then what happens? Automatically the number of complaints decreases. So it makes sense that the better service at a restaurant is, the smaller will be the percentage of its patrons complaining to the manager. Is it clear? Because these are the logical implications. You do an action, you will have a different consequence of it. In other words, a smaller percentage of patrons making complaint to the management is the logical implication or the result of services. It is because you have improved the service, its logical implication is smaller percentage of people or the patrons are making complaints. One thing happened, it led to the another thing. Okay, let's look at one more example. Okay, we have some more. If it is easier to get to a store, then more people will shop there. Now think about it. It's about the convenience. If it is convenient for me to reach to the shop, obviously more people will love to go to the shop and do the shopping. And all the different factors we are not thinking about, that quality of the products are same, means quality of products are good, products are not very high priced. All right, we are not talking about all those. What logically think about, logical implication is, if it is easier to get to the store, the more people will shop there. The logical way we think about it. This is a logical implication. So it's the convenience, the easier It means if it is easier to go get to the store, the more people will shop there. About the convenience. If it is convenient for you to go, then automatically more people will come to the shop. So we expect that all else equals. All else equal. All else equal means we are not talking about other factors, about the price, about the quality of the products. Okay, we are not talking that might be other different shops. We are not concerned about it. In means what could be the common logical implication we are talking about? As the ease of getting to the store goes up, the number of people who shop there will automatically increase. If it becomes easy for you, convenient for you, the number will automatically means people would love to come there. Okay. In other words, logical implication or the result of the shoppers finding easier to get to the store is more that people will shop there. This is a common sense logic. One thing happens, its consequence will this. It means if it is convenient for me, then obviously more people will love to come there. This is a logical implication. Next, if the price of fuel for the car increases, now think about it. Price of fuel for the car increase. What can happen? The demand for more fuel efficient car will automatically increase. Fuel efficient car, it will increase, and demand for less fuel efficient cars, it will automatically decrease. It means that price of fuels increase. What could be the logical implication? It means that fuel efficient cars, okay, fuel efficient cars, what will happen? There is an increment. There will be an increment in their demand, and less fuel efficient cars. Less fuel efficient cars. There will be a decrement in what? Demand. These are called the logical implications. Price of fuel increased. What can happen? Price means what can happen? The fuel efficient cars, their demand will automatically increase. If price decreases, what can happen? Sorry, a fuel of means your fuel efficient car, their demand increases, and the less fuel efficient car, their demand increases. They both depend on the factor of price. How the price factors affect different scenarios, different conditions, different factors. We need to look at it. Okay. Next, we have one more example. What is it? If people can make something more efficiently, now you have improved the efficiency of people, then they can produce more of that thing in the same amount of time. And it is what really the in logical implication things might happen. Now your efficiency is improved, then automatically in the same amount of time you can produce more number of the same product. Okay, so we can see that it makes perfect sense when people can make something more efficiently. When people can make something more efficient, then what can happen? They can produce more of it, obviously, and more of it in same amount of time. This is what really in reality happens also. In other words, logical implication is if you increase the efficiency, that more of things can be produced in the same period. You increase the efficiency of an individual, in the same amount of time he can produce more number of quantities of that particular. So these were condition of logical implication. Now you can see these are common sense based. It was not very much difficult for you to understand the idea. If you think about them logically, that what could be the future consequences when all the other conditions, if I not consider about them, logically what could be the consequence? Then you might get the ideas. Okay, if this is happening, if I improve the services, then obviously complaint might decreases, number of complaint might decrease. If I improve my services, it might be possible more number of people will love to come to my restaurant. Those are called the logical implications. So in today's class, what we have talked about the basic ideas of critical reasoning. that how critical reasoning works, what critical reasoning is about, and what kind of questions will critical reasoning be consist of. In the next lecture, we will also talk. We will means in the next lecture we will talk in more detailed manner that what different kind of questions these topics consist. All right, and I will means my recommendation to you is that please watch this lecture at least 2 times so you get a better understanding of the idea which I have shared. That's all for the day. Thank you.